For years, viewers of Sister Wives believed they had seen every version of Kody Brown imaginable. They had watched him as the enthusiastic patriarch with wild, wind-tossed curls, bouncing as he gestured passionately about family unity. They had seen him during seasons of triumph, new homes, new beginnings, grand speeches about love multiplied. And they had witnessed him in seasons of heartbreak, when fractures in the once unshakable plural marriage became too visible to ignore. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared them for the moment he stepped into frame with a look so startling that fans collectively gasped. It happened in the most ordinary way. The cameras rolled, the familiar desert lights stretched across the Arizona landscape. The scene felt routine, almost predictable. And then Kody appeared. Gone were the shoulder-grazing curls that had become as much a part of his identity as his outspoken personality. In their place was a sharply trimmed, sculpted cut, shorter on the sides, styled deliberately on top. His beard, once scruffy and uneven, was now carefully groomed, edged with precision. Even his wardrobe seemed elevated. Fitted dark denim, a crisp jacket, boots polished to a subtle shine. Social media exploded within minutes. "Is that really Kody?" one viewer posted. "Who is this man?" another wrote. Screenshots circulated across fan pages. Side-by-side comparisons flooded timelines. The transformation wasn't subtle, it was seismic. For over a decade, Kody's look had been consistent, almost symbolic. The flowing curls gave him a kind of unpredictable energy. He was animated, emotional, sometimes chaotic, and the hair seemed to match that intensity. It had become part of the brand of Sister Wives itself. So when the curls disappeared, fans didn't just see a haircut, they saw a statement. In a confessional interview, Kody leaned forward, hands clasped, the shorter hair framing his face in a way that made his jawline appear sharper, more controlled, more deliberate. "Sometimes," he said slowly, "you've got to look in the mirror and decide who you want to be next." It was the kind of line that reality television thrives on, simple but heavy with implication. Because if there's one thing viewers know, it's that change doesn't happen in isolation on this show. The Brown family's journey has been anything but smooth. Over the years, relationships have shifted dramatically. Once united under a shared vision of plural marriage, the wives' paths have gradually diverged. Emotional strain became visible long before official separations were announced. And through it all, Kody remained a lightning rod for opinions. Some fans sympathized with the pressure he carried as a patriarch navigating complex relationships under a public microscope. Others criticized him harshly, pointing to decisions they felt deepened divides within the family. So when he emerged with a transformed look, speculation swirled. Was it reinvention? Was it damage control? Was it personal growth? Or was it simply a man who finally decided to try a new barber? Behind the headlines and the hashtags, there was something quietly human about it all. In a later episode, Kody admitted the haircut had been months in the making. He had sat in his car outside the salon longer than he cared to admit. His fingers had twisted instinctively at the curls as he stared at his reflection in the rearview mirror. "I kept thinking, if I cut it, am I cutting away who I've been?" he confessed. It's a question far bigger than hair. For years, his identity was entwined with a particular vision of family life, one that millions watched unfold week after week. That vision has shifted dramatically. Marriages dissolved, trust eroded, the once bustling household quieted. And in many ways, the haircut symbolized something viewers weren't used to seeing from Kody: vulnerability. In earlier seasons, he often leaned into bravado, grand gestures, big speeches, assertive declarations about leadership and love. But recently, there has been a different tone, more reflective, more measured. The sharper haircut only amplified that perception. Fans noticed the posture change, too. He carried himself differently, shoulders squared, movements less frantic, conversations less explosive. On fan forums, debates raged. He looks happier. No, he looks guarded. He's trying to rebrand. Maybe he's healing. The truth, as always, likely lives somewhere in between. Reality television has a strange way of freezing people in time. Viewers grow attached not just to personalities, but to aesthetics, hairstyles, fashion choices, mannerisms. They become visual anchors in a long-running narrative. When those anchors shift, it can feel jarring. But for Kody, the transformation wasn't just cosmetic. In a candid moment, he acknowledged feeling stuck in the image people expected of him. "I've been the guy with the crazy hair for so long," he said with a small laugh. "Maybe I wanted to see what it feels like to not hide behind it." That line lingered. Hide behind it. Hair as armor, hair as distraction, hair as a way to lean into a persona rather than confront what lies beneath. The new look stripped some of that away. Without the cascade of curls softening his features, his expressions became clearer, more readable. Frustration, regret, determination, they all seemed closer to the surface. And viewers, stunned at first, began to adjust. Interestingly, reactions softened over time. What started as shock turned into curiosity, then into cautious admiration from some corners of the fandom. Change is difficult, especially in public. Every shift becomes commentary. Every choice becomes content. But the new Kody, trimmed, tailored, composed, felt less like a stunt and more like a chapter turn. In one particularly poignant scene, he stood alone at sunset, the Arizona sky streaked with pink and gold. The wind no longer tangled long curls across his face. Instead, it brushed lightly over shorter strands. "It's strange," he murmured, starting over at this age. The vulnerability caught viewers off guard, because beyond the headlines about separations and drama, beyond the online debates about who was right or wrong, there was a man grappling with the unraveling of a life he once envisioned as permanent. The haircut didn't fix anything. It didn't mend fractured relationships or erase past mistakes, but it marked something important: intent. A willingness to step out of the version of himself that had become almost caricatured over time. And perhaps that's why the reaction was so intense. For over a decade, audiences had built a mental image of Kody Brown, expressive, animated, hair flying as he spoke. To see him now, measured, styled, composed, felt like meeting a stranger wearing a familiar face. Yet in the quiet moments between scenes, something else became apparent. He seemed lighter, not necessarily happier, not suddenly transformed into a different person, but lighter, as if shedding the curls symbolically released some of the weight he had been carrying. Reinvention doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's the quiet snip of scissors in a salon chair, the slow fall of hair to the floor, the steady breath taken before looking up at the mirror. For viewers of Sister Wives, the shock will likely fade. The new look will become the norm. Future seasons may introduce even more changes, new dynamics, new chapters, new identities. But this moment will stand out, because it wasn't just about aesthetics, it was about evolution. Kody Brown has always been a polarizing figure. That hasn't changed. Opinions remain divided, conversations remain heated, the internet remains relentless. But in a show built on the idea of multiplying love, perhaps the most radical act is learning to reshape oneself. And whether fans applaud the transformation or roll their eyes at it, one thing is undeniable: they're watching. The desert sunsets still glow, the cameras still roll, and Kody Brown, jawline sharper, gaze steadier, steps forward into whatever comes next, no longer hidden behind cascading curls, but unmistakably, undeniably present.